to live your dreams. The fact that this was directed by Sidney Poitier still proves to be outstanding. But he has done directing before. He directed films with Gene Wilder, such as Stir Crazy and Hanky Panky. He did three films with Bill Cosby, Uptown Saturday Night, A Piece of the Action, and his last film was director Ghost Dad. But this will be the first film that Poitier used a virtual newcomer cast. Um, and seriously, if you see
Welcome to the Video Store Geek Podcast, where your friendly neighborhood world film geek Albert Valentine talks about films made and released during the golden age of the VHS era.
Hello, Video Store Geeks. Welcome to another episode of the Video Store Geek Podcast, where I talk about films made or released during the VHS era. Today's episode, we're moving fast forward as we talk about the 1985 film directed by Hollywood legend Sidney Poitier and featuring an ensemble cast of virtual newcomers to the scene at the time. This is the story of a singing and dancing troupe from Sandusky, Ohio, who head to the city that never sleeps to achieve their dream of entering a contest. But of course, complications are set to arise, including relationships, attacks, and even homesickness. So let's get right into the story of the Adventurous Eight as we go fast forward. The film opens in Sandusky, Ohio, where we meet our eight, yes, that's right, eight protagonists. They are high school students who make up the Adventurous Eight, a local singing and dance troupe, and after the credits roll, we get to see them practice with a song called Breaking Out. The group is planning to go to New York City to enter the Shootout, a music competition sponsored by Sable Records, after leaders Matt and Michael convinced the record label founder to give them a shot months ago. The troupe is ready, but Meryl, one of the dancers, is worried about her parents as her dad is a police officer. However, the others are able to convince her to make the trek to the city that never sleeps. Aside from Matt, Michael, and Meryl, there's Matt's girlfriend June and besties Francine, Valerie, Rita, and Debbie. The group is played by an ensemble cast of newcomers, but one would go on to star in a hit series in the 1990s along with someone to be mentioned later. The group makes it to New York and head to Sable Records. The CEO, Clem Freakland, played by Sam McMurray of The Tracy Ullman Show and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation later on, informs the group that the shootout has been postponed for 3 weeks. So the group decides that instead of heading back to Ohio, they're going to make the most of their time there. They rent a beaten-up apartment that they fix up and perform street gigs so they can eat and get their name out there. One particular person who gets the attention of the group is rich girl Susan Granger, played by Karen Coppins, who invites the group to perform at her family's house for an upcoming event. As not only the lyricist and manager, Matt makes the business deal with Susan and it eventually leads to the two having an affair, which, of course, June finds out about and is pissed off beyond repair. Meanwhile, Susan invites the group to a local club called the Zoo, where they are challenged by a local breakdance group who has been watching them, led by Caesar, played by Michael DeLorenzo, who at the time was a famous dancer, and more on him in the fun facts later. After being humiliated by Caesar and his group, Michael and Matt realize that if they're going to win the shootout, they're going to have to change their dancing style. And to do that, they must adapt to the style of today or back in 1985 and mesh it with their old school style of their old school brand of dancing to create a new form. So to do this, they began watching other dance groups to study and then mix up the movements. However, the chances of the group almost deteriorate when Meryl gets homesick and calls home one night with her dad answering. She decides to hang up, but it only gets worse when the girls, except for June, get assaulted by some scuzzy men who live in the same apartment building. These guys are your typical 80s pervert scumbags, who are looking for just a piece, if you know what I mean. Anyway, it leads to one night Meryl and Francine fighting back, and Francine gets attention by breaking a car window, and they end up getting caught by the police. Their dads are called. So what happens is their dads were to come to New York City, and they tell them, "No, you're going home. You're not going to stay here. You're going home." However, when the girls invite their dads to the apartment that they've fixed up and see that they really want to make this happen, this dream, their dads finally said, "Okay, you can stay, but after the shootout, you have to return home. You got to come back no matter what." So the girls agreed to do that, and their dads leave. And meanwhile, what happens is course, Matt and June break up. June wants to leave the group eventually, but what happens is at the event at the Granger estate, Susan's mother catches Matt and Susan, excuse me, kissing, and she is none too pleased because Susan has a nouveau riche boyfriend named Mark, and they show him temporarily in one scene. I get this is the scene where they go to the zoo, and Mark is kind of like you can tell he's nouveau riche. He's kind of an arrogant, pompous guy. But anyway, when Susan's mom catches her and Matt kissing, she's like, "Can I talk to my daughter alone?" And that's the last we see of Susan. The 3 weeks are almost up, so they head back to Sable Records, only for the CEO to say, "You're not going to be in the shootout. You got denied. Your stuff is outdated. We're not looking for this." So they are really disappointed. However, Matt, being the guy that he was when he convinced Mr. Sable months ago to give him a shot, he has learned that Mr. Sable had um, died shortly after that meeting with him. But the one who really gave him the shot was his widow, Ida Sable, played by Irene Worth, a Hollywood legend in her own right. And as a result, they decide to track her down. And she explained that, the whole thing is that she's retired. But when she heard what happened, she tries to reach out to Clem about letting them in the shootout. But Clem has his foot down. He's using his advantage of his position, saying, no, they're not going to be in the shootout. That's all there is to it. So Ida decides to set a plan in motion for them to happen. Now, if you're wondering what's going on with Matt and June at this point, June still wants to leave the group. She's hell bent. She said when the shootout's over, she's planning to go back to Ohio with Meryl and Francine. But Michael informs her that Susan was only using Matt the whole time because Mark wasn't giving her enough attention. But after the incidents that happened between her and Matt, Mark finally said, I guess Mark felt bad what happened, and he ended up marrying Susan. So Matt and June do make up, but will they still enter the shootout? Come on, man. You've seen these movies. You know how this is going to go. And it's time for the group not just to go forward, but they're going to go fast forward, hence the name of the movie. This is a fun coming of age story about the perseverance to live your dreams. The fact that this was directed by Sidney Poitier still proves to be outstanding. But he has done directing before. He directed films with Gene Wilder, such as Stir Crazy and Hanky Panky. He did 3 films with Bill Cosby, Uptown Saturday Night, A Piece of the Action, and his last film was director Ghost Dad. But this will be the first film that Poitier used a virtual newcomer cast. And seriously, if you see this movie, the chemistry between the 8 protagonists, I feel like is the heart of the film. That's what this is about. This is about 8 friends who persevere. They're going to do what it takes to make sure this dream happens, and it's because of their chemistry that this film is freaking amazing if you have not seen this. So now we're going to get into a little bit of fun facts. There aren't that many on this one, but it's quite interesting because 90s fans might get interested in some of the stuff that I'm about to reveal here. So let's get into some fun facts about Fast Forward. So while the film has relative newcomers in the cast, 2 of the stars would gain major fame in the 1990s. And we're going to start with Don Franklin, who plays the singer and choreographer Michael. He would go on to play Commander Jonathan Ford on the series Sequest DSV, having appeared in 56 of its 57 episodes. And that's only one behind the only person to ever appear in every episode. And that is the late, great Jonathan Brandis. He appeared in all 57 episodes. And Don Franklin's character appeared in all but one. So that's a big thing that he did back then. That was like his big breakout project. It was, but we get to see a young version of him as a second lead in this film, and he's great in this movie. The other guy is the aforementioned Michael DeLorenzo. He was a dancer at the time of his appearance in the film. He was acting, but he was more known as a dancer. And the one video you can really recognize him is Michael Jackson's "Beat It." He appears in the big finale where the 2 gangs unite and they start breaking out into dance with Michael Jackson. You can see DeLorenzo like one of right behind Michael Jackson in one sense. But in the 1990s, like Don Franklin, he broke out. His breakout role was Detective Eddie Torres on the Fox hit show New York Undercover, and it ran for 4 seasons, but he left the show after the 3rd season, and that left Malik Yoba to be the only other lead to appear in all 4 seasons. Okay, so here's another fact. Karen Copins, who played rich girl Susan Granger, had quite a year in 1985 because not only did she have this film, she starred in the horror comedy Once Bitten as Robin, Jim Carrey's girlfriend. But 5 years later, she would appear in an NBC TV movie where she brought the comic book character of Veronica Lodge to life. And that movie is Archie to Riverdale and Back, which was released on VHS as Archie Returned to Riverdale, which kind of it slimmed down a little bit of the film. So I would say I think you see both versions at one point, but the Return to Riverdale cuts about maybe 5 to 10 minutes of the film of the original broadcast version, which is To Riverdale and Back. Final fact: the songs performed by the Adventurous Eight were actually performed by Kip Lennon, who Don Franklin lip syncs, and the titular track, Fast Forward, which is played in the big finale number, was produced by Brock Walsh. In 1994, Walsh wrote the lyrics to a song written by Earth, Wind, and Fire's Maurice White and Bill Myers called Let's Fly. It was performed by Lance Matthew and served as the theme song for the 1994 original video animation, or OVA, reboot of Gotcha Man. Now, if that name's not familiar to you guys, Gotcha Man was known in the U.S. under 3 titles, and I think the most famous one is its first title, Battle of the Planets. In the 80s, it was rebooted as G-Force from the same producers, Sandy Frank Productions. But then in 1998, there was a Gotcha Man 2 series, and Saban Brands got the right to it and called it Eagle Riders for one reason or another, and they completely changed the character names. And just a quick thing on Gotcha Man, there was a 2013 live action film in Japan, and there are, I think it's still in development right now, but the Russo brothers, the guys behind the Avengers films, including the upcoming Doomsday, apparently are still developing a Battle of the Planets film. So I hope that's going to happen, because with Masters of the Universe coming out and Voltron coming out next year, we might be getting Battle of the Planets at some point. But anyway, that's all the fun facts of that film. So fast forward, it's not just for nostalgic fans. It's for those who want to live a dream and not sure how to go about it. This is about a group who perseveres and will do what it takes to make sure the dream is achieved as they attempt to surpass the obstacles thrown at them. And there was a lot in this movie. The movie runs almost 2 hours. So my final rating is a definite A. You got to see this movie. If you have this on VHS already, do yourself a favor. You get a chance, pop it in your VCR and just watch the dance numbers and watch the story of these best friends who just do what it takes. Or you can look for it on streaming. I saw this on Tubi, but I believe it's been taken off Tubi now, so you're going to have to find it somewhere else. Anyway, that's it for this episode of the Video Store Geek Podcast, but I hope you get hungry in about 2 weeks, because on May 4th, we're coming back with another 1985 classic. We're going to go to Buster Burger University with Hamburger the Motion Picture, the story of a group of misfits who go to a hamburger college. And with a cast that includes Dick Butkus, Charles Tyner, and Lynn McCloskey, chaos is bound to ensue. So head over to Buster Burger University for Hamburger the Motion Picture when I return on May 4th with the Video Store Geek Podcast. And where can you find the Video Store Geek Podcast? We're on YouTube and Spotify. And for the latest in indie and world cinema, check out indieworldcinema.com. The official domain is going up May 1st. If you type it in now, it's going to revert back to my old worldfilmgeek.com. Worldfilmgeek.com is officially going to be taken out May 1st and will be replaced by indieworldcinema.com permanently. And join our YouTube channel and Spotify, where I talk indie chat, where I talk to indie and international actors and filmmakers about this later work. So that's it for this episode. And until next time, be kind, rewind, and stay awesome. Take care, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Video Store Geek Podcast. Don't forget to check out worldfilmgeek.com for the latest reviews, interviews, and news in the world of indie and global cinema. And see you on the next episode of the podcast. Stay awesome, film geeks.